Meet Khan stands as one of the prominent leaders in Turkish history. He transformed the great Han state into a superpower by liberating it from the pressures of surrounding states. Meet, the eldest son of his Turkish wife from his father Teoman, lived between 234 BC and 174 BC. Although there is limited information about Meet's life, there are three significant events associated with him: his captivity by the Yuezhi, the assassination of his father to ascend the throne, the demands of the Tunghu, and the campaign against China. Additionally, Meet Khan is acknowledged as the common ancestor by the Oghuz Turks, leading to his inclusion in the Oghuz Khan epic. Teoman's second wife, the Chinese princess Yensi, persuaded Teoman to ensure her son's ascent to the leadership of the state. Teoman, in compliance, left his firstborn son Meet as a captive to the Yuezhi, with the condition of non-aggressive pact. However, Teoman, who ultimately wished for Meet's death, later declared war on the Yuezhi. Thanks to a few Turkish generals who informed Meet about the impending war, he managed to escape from the Yuezhi's clutches by discerning his father's plot. Upon his return to his father, seemingly unaware of any deceit, Meet began to bide his time to overthrow his father from the throne. Teoman entrusted Meet with the command of a 10,000-strong army. Meet diligently trained this army to be unwaveringly obedient to his orders, a discipline often described as Mankurt. Moreover, he separated his army into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, introducing the military system known as the decimal system, which is still practiced in the world's military systems. At the conclusion of this rigorous training, Meet subjected his army to 3 serio tests. For these tests, Meet invented the whistling arrow and instructed that wherever he shot an arrow, the entire army should do the same. The first test was relatively straightforward. Meet launched his whistling arrow at a rock, and the entire army followed suit. In the second test, Meet directed his arrow at his beloved horse, and observing some soldiers hesitating due to the horse's sacred and emotional significance in Turkish culture, Meet ordered the execution of those who did not shoot the arrow. In the third and most challenging test, Meet aimed his whistling arrow at his beloved wife. Once again, if any soldiers hesitated, they were met with the same fate. Having thus cultivated an exceedingly disciplined and obedient army, Meet marched to his father, who was out hunting, and shot his whistling arrow at him. In response, the entire army unleashed their arrows at Teoman. As a result of his father's assassination, Meet ascended to the throne of the Han state in 209 BC. The early years of his rule were marked by the management of a Han state under pressure from 3 neighboring states. These 3 states were the Yuezhi, Tunghu, and the Chinese state. The Tunghu and Yuezhi states consisted of a population with mixed Mongol-Turk origins, with their rulers being of Mongol descent. The second known event regarding Meet Khan, which involves the demands of the Tunghu, occurred during this period. The Tunghu, seeking to exert pressure on Meet and establish their leadership, sent envoys to request his most beloved horse. In response, Meet Khan convened a council of advisors to discuss the matter. Upon hearing the request, his advisors became highly agitated, emphasizing the horse's significance in Turkish culture and advising against giving it away. However, Meet Khan, pondering the impact of refusing over a single horse, decided to send his beloved horse with the envoys, stating, "Am I going to disrupt relations with a neighboring state over a horse?" Shortly thereafter, the envoy returned, this time requesting Meet Khan's wife. Meet Khan once again convened a council for deliberation. Although his advisors were even more vehement in their recommendation to reject this demand due to their earlier frustrations with the envoys, Meet Khan, maintaining his perspective, stated, "Am I going to disrupt relations with a neighboring state over a woman?" and proceeded to send his wife with the envoys. Upon this, the Tunghu, believing they could obtain anything they wished from Meet Khan, sent envoys once more, this time requesting a desolate mountainous region that lay uninhabited between the Tunghu and Han states. While the envoys made this request, the Tunghu army had already set out to seize the region by force. Meet Khan introduced the matter to his council, and although his advisors recommended giving away the region with the notion that it held no value, Meet Khan, rebuffing this advice, stated, "Is the state's land mine to give away?" He subsequently ordered the execution of both the advisors who suggested such concessions and the envoys. Meet Khan then launched a surprise attack on the Tunghu army, defeating them. From this episode in Turkish history, two notable aspects stand out. Turkish rulers often made decisions by consulting with others before acting, and Turks did not cede any of their state's territory. The third significant event associated with Meet Khan is his campaign against China. Having already incorporated the territory of the Tunghu into his own state, Meet Khan embarked on a campaign against China. He did so with the concern that the Yuezhi, who his captors during his youth and possessed considerable economic wealth, could pose a threat to his state if left unchecked. After defeating the Yuezhi, Meet Khan made the decision to wage war against China. One of the primary motivations behind this decision was China's previous invasion of ancestral Turkic lands and its desire to control the Silk Road. Meet Khan, gathering Chinese local lords who resisted the rule of the Chinese Emperor Cao, advanced towards China's territory. Upon reaching the Chinese border, Meet Khan confronted the formidable obstacle of the 440-kilometer-long Great Wall of China. However, he maneuvered his army around the Great Wall, entering northern China and making progress into Chinese territory. When Meet Khan assumed leadership of the Han state, the Han dynasty ruled in China. China's Emperor Cao dispatched a delegation of 10 envoys to ascertain the strength of the army Meet Khan would use to attack. Recognizing the situation, Meet Khan concealed the most powerful units of his army in the forest, leaving only the elderly and weaker soldiers at the camp. The envoys, believing that the Han army was significantly weakened, reported this to Emperor Cao. Suspecting the accuracy of this report, Emperor Cao sent one of his commanders to observe the Han army, and the commander discovered that the situation was not as the envoys had described. However, before the commander could relay this information, Emperor Cao, with the Chinese army, set out to attack Meet Khan. Facing a well-equipped and formidable army, Emperor Cao was astonished but had no choice but to proceed with the attack. Meet Khan had placed his sons as commanders on the left and right wings of his army. These forces consistently defeated the Chinese army and conducted psychological warfare to demoralize them. As a last resort, Emperor Cao, along with his army, sought refuge in the city of Peiying. The Han army besieged the city and the Chinese for 7 days. After 7 days, the siege was lifted, and the Chinese army was allowed to leave. It is said that the reason for the release of the Chinese was that the Chinese Emperor Cao sent a message to Meet Khan's wife, and Meet Khan's wife relayed to Meet Khan, "Do not settle in China because China is a great empire. If you settle, you and your men will become Chinese." Upon this, Meet Khan subjected China to tribute and returned to the Han territories.